And I think we get caught up on the negativity to ourselves that we also spill it outward to the people around us. Being very overly critical when we have to just say, wait a minute, what is being done right? Let's focus on that. What are you doing right? Let's focus on that. Quit beating yourself up. You're not going to progress on the way you want unless we start breathing that positivity into ourselves. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Araujo, and I want to thank you for joining me today. We had a very productive last couple of weeks, especially last week where we had a virtual sales meeting, and we went down 5 crucial items to kind of consider, right? 5 crucial items to consider and how to prepare for an economic downturn. And I got a lot of great feedback from many individuals, some of our very seasoned veterans and top producers, all the way down to people just starting out, where they have a better and clear direction of what they have to do. And if you didn't hear that episode, I encourage you to go back into Workplace as soon as possible and listen to that meeting. I think it'll impact you in a big way, in a massive way, in order for you again to just know what you're shooting for. Okay, and we all have to prepare. We don't want to go down the line a year, 2 years from now and say, I wish I would have known. I'm telling you this now. We have to prepare today so that when there is a shift, you're ahead of the curve, that you're able to see opportunities that others are not, that you're able to make moves while others are panicking. And that's the whole point of being committed to doing the right things each and every day. And, I got a variety of responses, and some of them from some of our top agents, those that have been through an economic crisis, were excited because they've done all the right things throughout the years to prepare themselves for what's next. And there was another mixture of individuals that maybe don't have everything in line, right? Maybe they don't have the 12 months that I recommended that we have in a bank account. Others are still, not where they need to be with their credit or their taxes. And others are still trying to get their business up and running. So I get it. And I'm not saying we're all prepared for it now. What I'm saying is we got to take the steps and the measures towards that. But with that being said, it gets to a point where we just think about our business so much. We think about the moves we should be making. We think about our future that sometimes we get in this thought of just constantly thinking that we start going through the motions. And it was a conversation that I had this morning with one of our agents about just kind of going through the motions, right? Because there's just so much going on. And it often starts with like worry and disappointment, right? Worry and disappointment. And it, especially as we're down 2 months now, we're 2 months into the new year, we start comparing it to what we wanted to create, and maybe we're not in alignment yet. Maybe the things haven't taken off the way we wanted them. So now we're caught up on what we don't have. We're caught up, feeling that it might not happen. And then we get like these news, right? We turn on social media or we turn on TV. For those of you that are old school like me, maybe watch TV or listen to the news, listen to the radio, and you're like, look what's going on in the world. So there's another distraction there. And then you go back to the business like, I don't even know where my next deals are coming from. Will I ever get a contract accepted? I created this excellent video, right, with a lot of value, and nobody saw it. So we start now really dissecting and being very critical about everything that we're doing. And then, no one's really converting on those videos. Nobody's following up. Will I be able to hit my goal? We say things like this, right? I'm behind the ball. Like I still have taxes. Taxes are coming up and I don't know what to do. And then we see somebody on social media. It's like, I'll never make as much money as them. How come they make it look so easy? And if you ever catch yourself that you're just kind of you're still showing up, if you're just going through the motions, I want you to consider one thing. I think that for me at least, whenever I catch myself kind of just caught up in those thought processes, is that I'm focusing on the outward. I'm focusing on all the things outside of me. Okay, and one of the things that I want you to just consider today is we're 2 months down. I'm not saying that the year's nowhere close to being done, right? We still have 10 more months to be able to achieve that thing that we wrote down on our 12-week target books, that thing that we said that we were going to do on our business planning meeting. We still have time, but we do have to operate with a sense of urgency. But with that being said, if we just get caught up on the outward, we forget what's happening right now in the inward. And the inward is so important because that's where the thoughts procure. That's where the thoughts initiate. That's where they begin, right? And then from those thoughts, that's where our feelings come from. And then from those feelings, it determines if we take the right actions or not. So today, I want you to really just focus on the inward, not so much on the outward, but really direct yourself to what you do have. And it's awesome because the conversation today also got me thinking about how I'm doing with my girls and how I'm parenting them, right? I have so much good in my life that I've just become accustomed to it. I have a certain lifestyle that I've just become accustomed to it that I'm no longer appreciating because I still want more, right? So my thoughts are now caught up on wanting more and then being disappointed that I don't have more, that I forget the things that I do have right now. And I think that's where we all just need to take the focus, right? Yes, we may not be on track to get what we want for the rest of the year, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But during that time, we should appreciate where we're at right now. So I took a little bit more time this morning than I usually do. I mean, I'm always trying to get the valuable lessons in life to just so I can pivot, so I can make adjustments to what I'm doing today and be more intentional. And today I just spent a little bit more time with my daughters, just talking to them and reminding them of all the things I used to I would tell them since they were very young. One of them being, you're not a follower, you're a leader. So you have to operate as if. And then I started talking more about like how they did this weekend on their volleyball tournaments, as opposed to being critical. And that's where I was catching myself. As critical as I was being with my own progression, I caught myself also being very critical about what they're doing on the court. I caught myself saying, hey, you did good over here, but how come you're still making this mistake? The ball was right in front of you, Abigail. Why didn't you move fast enough? As opposed to focusing on that, which I typically do, I made adjustments to that conversation as well. I only focused on the positive. I only focused on how well she did. I only focused on this has always been within her, right? With both of my daughters, they did excellent. I was gone all weekend, one day in Tucson, yesterday here locally, but I was gone, 20 plus hours with these volleyball tournaments, right? But I caught myself because I was being overly critical with my own progression, that it no longer was just within me. I was also doing it with my daughters, not knowing. And these kids are sponges, right? And I had another agent this morning just talk about there's this new documentary, and I haven't got to watch it, but I'm just saying it from what I heard, right, from third person perspective, about how Venus and Serena Williams, the tennis ball players, and how their dad would instill all this positivity into them, letting them know that they're champions, that they're number one, that they're going to be something great, that no one will ever stop them. Like this is the positive reinforcement. And I think we get caught up on the negativity to ourselves, that we also spill it outward to the people around us, being very overly critical when we have to just say, wait a minute, what is being done right? Let's focus on that. What are you doing right? Let's focus on that. Quit beating yourself up. You're not going to progress on the way you want unless we start breathing that positivity into ourselves. So with that being said, I like I said, I came back home and I just started breathing positivity to my girls. They both went to school with smiles. I'm like, how do I forget? Not to say that I was this demeaning person, but what I said is I just put more intentional. It's not to say that you're not a good business person, but when you get triggered with something, when you get reminded of something, you just become better. And that's what we're looking to do, is become better through the lessons in life. So how do we stop going through the motions? How do we stop being overly critical? Well, just take a minute and realize what you've created thus far. What have you created thus far? Like, are the things that we used to desire before, we're living it right now. We're living it. Some of you are in that house that you've always wanted, driving that car that you've always wanted, having that money in the bank account that you never had before, and yet we're still overly critical. So I'm not saying we can't be driven. We must be driven. We got to take a moment right now and just be in the moment. Be in this place right here, right now. Appreciate your family, appreciate your kids, appreciate what you have done. And then make a couple pivot points. Make a few adjustments. Be more clear about what you want. And then go after that. Otherwise, we'll start just thinking of all the things we don't have, and our thoughts and our worries will just continue to grow into oblivion. Or we can calm that noise down, realize what we have, and just come up with a few things that we need to do today that will get us closer to the overall targets and goals that we want by the end of the year. But again, it's making those adjustments when necessary. The way I spoke to my daughters, I needed to adjust it. It was necessary. And I got a good response. Like after every game, I didn't bring up one thing that she made a mistake on. I just focused on 100% on the positivity. And guess what happened? She got better and better and better each game. I'm not saying it was those words alone, but when we instill like the things that we're not doing right to others, there's going to be focus on that. We're bringing that up to them. We're shining a light on that. And the same thing goes for us. If all we do is are concerned about what we're not doing, on how we could have done things better, and stay there, then the focus is going to remain there. We can't appreciate what we have. We can't appreciate where we're going. So I think those were two excellent lessons for me that just got me back dialed down, because my mind was going in a different direction, because I'm going after these big goals just like you are. And sometimes when you're clear and you know what you want and you don't get the results right away, it can almost be debilitating. It can, because the vision is so clear, the actions are all done right, but the result's not there. It becomes debilitating sometimes, right? And then we can dwell there. Or I can just pivot and say, okay, what else can I do? I haven't done everything. I haven't maximized all my skill sets. I haven't maximized everything that I have. So that's exactly what I wrote down. And I want you to use this book here to just give yourself a little bit direction. If something's not working, what more can you do? It doesn't mean you stop. It doesn't mean you stop. It just means, what more can I add to this? And that's exactly what I wrote down. And again, Jermaine, you're on the call, and thank you for being here, man. And one of the things, I remember our conversation last week where you're like, I get it. I get the importance of this book now. He says, why would anybody want to get up and not know what to do? Like, how are you going to make any type of progression with no direction? Right? How are you going to make any type of progression with no direction? And this is what this book is intended for you to do. So along with just appreciating where we're at right here, right now, I want you to do one more thing. I don't care if you haven't filled out this book in the last 2 weeks or in the last month, or if you haven't started at all. That's okay. You're going to start today. You're not going to wait till April to start. You're going to start today. And all you're simply going to write down are the things that you want to accomplish today, so you can give your mind a direction of what you want to accomplish, of where you want to go. Otherwise, you're going to flail. Otherwise, you won't know if you won the day or not. And it's so important, and it's so critical. We just need something to accomplish today, so we're not overwhelmed by the thoughts of not obtaining the things that we desire. I realized today that I need to make some pivot points on this new venture that I've started. It wasn't as easy as I painted it. So guess what I have to do? I have to do more. I have to create more value. I have to get more eyes on the content. Some of you are creating great videos. The lighting's perfect. The sound is on point. The topics are very insightful. And then you get demotivated because you only have like 20 views. So what do? We don't stop. What we do is we start thinking about how can we get more people to watch our insightful information. So maybe today is where you put that video, and as opposed to just put it on Instagram and Facebook, you also put it on YouTube. And then you create an email on GetResponse or Constant Contact or whatever email service you have, and you email it to your entire sphere with the link to your video. They may watch it, they may not. But now you're putting more eyeballs on that, and you're doing your part to try to increase the productivity, the efficiency. So these are all things that we just have to think about. It doesn't mean that we're on the wrong path if we get the wrong results. It's just, we just have to add more value. I wrote down a list of the things that I have to do. But this list is going to be taken care of today. And I'll tell you what I put. I have to check out my Facebook ads to see where we're at, the conversion rates. I have to see if we're getting enough views for the type of money that I'm spending. I am going to create an email list and create a hook. So I have to create a video so that I can increase my email list. We're also working on a new training for Asian associates. So I had one of my guys already working and going through the entire module system. I just have to go audit it. Is it the right way that I want it? Simple things. These are all things we know what you have to do. Like, you know exactly what you have to do today, but if you don't write it down, you may forget. I have to chop down an interview that we did for Sierra Interactive. We did a training for Sierra Interactive, so we're going to chop that down so make it more manageable, bite-sized pieces. I have to meet with a counselor today at 2 p.m. I have to finish up my Q&A for the application that I have. So these are a lot of little things, right? But guess what? If I don't have a direction, I could probably just go into my office. If I don't have a list of what I need to do, and I'll probably get caught up on social media. Waste a few hours. And then after I'm done, because my thoughts are now all muddled, I have no clarity. Because now I'm focusing on what others are doing, how much money they're making, where they're going. It's all muddled. It's clouded. But now I have clarity. Because I went back before my week 1 started and I wrote down exactly what I wanted to create this quarter. And I'll tell you what, even though I don't know if I'll achieve everything that I wrote down, I'm closer to achieving it than I am away from it. And that's a win. So again, it's knowing where we're at with our thoughts and our actions. Knowing that we just have a simple game plan every day. It's just to be clear about what needs to be accomplished today. And if you can do that while appreciating the things that you do, we can get so far in such a short amount of time. And that's the whole intention of this. So a couple things. If you didn't get to watch last week's meeting, please, I encourage you, I urge you, listen to it. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to see my face for that whole hour training. Just hear it. And that's another thing that I'm working on. I'm trying to get a members-only podcast so that you guys can listen to it while you're in your car, listen to the trainings, listen to the different interviews that we do here without having to necessarily have your workplace on there. So another thing that I'm working on in order to provide more value. So what can you do to provide more value to your clients? What can you do to provide more value to your family, to yourself? Okay, that's the focus today, and appreciation. So let's go ahead and read some comments here. Power of knowing what's next is a game-changing mentality. Just imagine that. Like, those people have clarity of what they want to accomplish. And I just want to give you one last example that I wrote down here. Okay, if we're not clear about what we want, and just writing it down is good. Writing it down is good, but if you're very, very clear, it's going to change the dynamic of how you approach things moving forward. Let me give you an example. So hang tight. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here in about 2 minutes. So hang tight with me. So I've had the honor of being able to work with brand new agents all the way to like top 1%ers, right? Top elite agents in the entire country. And some of the things that I realize and I notice is that clarity has everything to do with their success. Clarity has everything to do with their success. Let me give you an example. When you ask a new agent to write down what they need to accomplish, they'll use words like this. I want to market more, and I want to follow up more. I want to market, and I want to follow up. It's like so vague, right? It's so vague that if you don't know what's a win or not, because it is that vague. And then we'll go to top producers, and there's another layer to that. They'll be a little bit more clear on their message. They'll be a little bit more detailed, and it'll sound something like, I will create a video today, and I will follow up with 5 people today. And that sounds great, right? Much different from I will market more and I will follow up more. Top producers will say something, I will create a video today and follow up with 5 people today. But then there's another layer to that, which is the elite, which is the people that are top of their industries. And it sounds a little like this. I will create a video regarding the impact of inflation on mortgage payments and send the link to my email list. I will load it to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I will follow up with Wilma and find out if where her paperwork is. I will get her to commit to a date. I will follow up with Beth regarding the value of her home. I will provide an updated closing calculator and provide her with an estimated cash to sell. Do you see the difference? The more specific, the $1 million producer to a $10 million producer to a $100 million producer. And that goes for all industries. As an entrepreneur, right? The more clear you are, that is the defining point of how much money you actually make. So if you catch yourself just saying, I'm going to follow up and I'm going to market more, I don't think that's something an elite individual would actually say. They'd be very specific, kind of like what I described. So as you go through this, be very specific of what it is you want to accomplish. And then go after that. And let's say you just didn't happen not to finish. I have a lot of stuff on my list today. It's a Monday. I'm going to carry on until tomorrow. But all of this is going to be finished as I go through it. So guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. And like Jermaine just said, power in knowing what's next is a game-changing mentality. So let's take those thoughts with us. Let's take the present with us. And let's start making the moves. We're 2 months in. Thank you again for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.